It is so much worse in Israel than the media is showing everybody. If you look at other nations' media outlets right now, the ones that aren't owned by you know who, you will see that it is far worse than what is being reported on. And it's weird because there's NCOs that are reporting mass casualties on the ground right now, but yet no media outlet is covering it. Somehow there's only 6 troops that have gotten harmed, even though how many US embassies have been bombed by now? Oh, majority of you probably didn't know that. Now did you? I don't know how many people that I've talked to by now that have either family or friends in the military and are reporting the same exact thing. How the fuck do you think we have over 50,000 troops on the ground for a nation that apparently, according to Pete Hegseth and the entire administration, isn't a threat? Supposedly, they took out the entire Iranian Navy. But yet, when you look at satellite imaging, it's looking like different ships are the ones that are on fire. Notice how no pictures are coming out right now of the USS Abraham. People still somehow think that the United States is this mighty superpower, but yet they're getting their asses handed to them. Somebody please tell me, how many wars has the United States actually won? Did we just forget what happened in Afghanistan? Did we just forget what happened in Vietnam? When I tell you it's far worse than you think, or that is being reported on, I truly mean that.
Isaiah 47 verse 12. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in grace and peace, to you elect around the 4 winds, believing and pushing this truth in all sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. This is your fellow servant, Rokayer from the GMS Orlando camp, coming at you with another impromptu lesson. And tonight, I want to get into this lesson because, as you've seen from the videos that preceded, Western media and or propaganda is nothing more than an enchantment that's losing its luster. The same enchantments that at one time had power, going back into the same media tactics and propaganda that was used to fuel World War I, World War II, the invasion of Iraq, and many other countries, is no longer working. And that's because the Lord is making Esau bare. All right, let's get that in Jeremiah 49. In verse 10, it says, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. All right, and when you make something bare, you essentially strip it of its power. All right, and that's exactly what the Lord is doing to Esau, Edom. The Lord is stripping Edom of the power that he once was able to exercise over the earth in the form of his media and propaganda. All right, at one point in time, Esau was able to control the narrative, but now we're living in the age where knowledge has increased, pursuant to Daniel 12:4. All right, and with that increase of knowledge has come an increase in understanding and faith. All right, because now the teachers, the men who have the vision and the understanding and the proper breakdown of biblical prophecy have hit the scene. And with that, the world has been turned right side up again. All right, the true understanding has returned back into the earth through the Lord's servants, the prophets. All right, and now everybody is starting to see Babylon and these tiny tops for who they are, which is the devil that the Bible speaks of. And these enchantments that they were once able to, exercise over the earth are no longer working. And you've seen that in those videos that preceded. And I also want to play an excerpt from the Elder Yashawama's recent video as well, going into the same thing. There now in the earth, there's a common consensus, all right, being drawn against, those tiny tops in Babylon. All right, and it's all biblical prophecy. Okay, once again, in Jeremiah 49:10, it says, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places. All right, inquisition has now been made into the counsels of the ungodly. All right, and upon that inquisition has came a lot of revelation. All right, a lot of revelation has came upon the inquisition of the counsels of the ungodly, as the men of the Lord have been able to break down through the Spirit, the different happenings that have been taking place in the earth. And now everything is starting to make sense. Now everything that's been done in the dark is starting to be revealed. And now Esau is bare. His power is being stripped, because Esau's power was in secrecy, was in darkness, it was in wickedness. It was in his ability to control the narrative and media and propaganda. But now he no longer holds that power. And a huge part of that is due in part to the Lord's servants, the prophets, bringing the true revelation to the scene, man. Week in and week out, day in and day out, through these epistles. All right, the internet, the unicorn, has been saturated with truth, and it's caused faith to flourish in the earth. Esau, thought, that he would, conceptualize the internet for his own bidding, but the Lord had him in a trick bag. All right, that unicorn was conceptualized to ultimately bring forth the truth, and to ultimately bring forth exposure to the so-called white man, in order to bring forth the day of the Lord. Because it says in 2 Thessalonians, man, all right, which is something, I've been meditating on for a while. The scriptures say that day should not come. It's 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 3. It says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come," meaning the day of the Lord shall not come, except the coming falling away first, which happened. All right. And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. All right. So before the Lord could come, there had to come a falling away, which happened. And that man of sin, the son of perdition, had to be revealed. And now we're in that age where the son of perdition, the man of sin, has been revealed to be none other than Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. The cap has been peeled back. All right, just like on Scooby-Doo. All right, got the whole gang here, and the veil has been lifted. The veil has been lifted, and the culprit behind the whole spectrum of wickedness in the earth is none other than Esau, Edom, man. Chiefly Amalek, man. Them tiny tots, the ones who the elites. The ones who control and mismanage the resources, man, they've been exposed. And now through that revelation is coming the end of this society, coming the end of this hegemony, and the end of this wicked kingdom, man. This is 2 Thessalonians 2 and 8. "And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth." And the mouthpiece of the Lord is his prophets, pursuant to Hosea 12 and 10. All right. It says, "And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." All right, and that wicked is surely being revealed, all right, by the spirit of the Lord's mouth. Now, I want to get this in the NLT. It's Isaiah 47 and 12. Because right now, let me read it again in the KJV. Right now, it's time for Esau to stand. All right, this is the final stand for Esau, Edom. All right, and we can see how desperate he's getting. His counsel is getting desperate. His sorcery, his enchantments are getting desperate. All right, he's getting very, very sloppy in these latter days, man. He's getting very sloppy in his tactics, to the point where it's sad. It's sad, man. It says, "Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth." And this has been a conception ever since the Greek Empire. Esau has labored in these very enchantments and sorceries since his youth. And now, as the Lord has allowed it to come to its full hedge, we're seeing the dismantling of those very same enchantments and sorceries that he's worked so hard to establish. It says, "If so be thou mayest be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels." Esau is wearied, man. All right, in the multitude of his counsels. because all of those counsels have ultimately been exposed. He's wearied now. You know, he's exercised every option he could, and nothing has worked. You know, nothing has been able to prevent this influx of truth. The vibration of Yahweh, Bahashum Yahweh Shai, man. Nothing has been able to thwart that vibration from coming back into the earth, man. To stop this new song from being sung, man. It says, "They are wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee," which they ultimately can't. Yeah. This is Isaiah 47 and verse 12 in the NLT. It says, "Now use your magical charms. Use the spells you have worked at all these years. Maybe they will do you some good. Maybe they can make someone afraid of you." All right. And that's the problem. Everyone is no longer afraid, you know, which is that's also prophecy. All right. Where the scriptures say, "Let the weak say I'm strong." Now these different so-called weaker nations are rising up against Babylon, because now they have a guard, which is Russia, Gog and Magog. Now they have a backing that they at one point in time didn't have to come against the biggest bully on the yard. Now the weak are saying I'm strong. Now these different insignificant nations are arming themselves with nuclear weapons and are willing to fight. They're beating their plowshares and the pruning hooks. All right, their nations are funding more and more military endeavors because everyone is gearing up for the same end game ultimately, which is World War III. Esau was able to use his propaganda. Well, the Lord ultimately allowed Esau to use his propaganda to fuel and to win World War I and World War II. But this next world's war won't be the same, and we can see that even in these beginning stages, how this war is different. This one is different. You know, it says, "All the advice you receive has made you tired." Where are all your astrologers, those stargazers who make predictions each month? Let them stand up and save you from what the future holds. But they are like straw burning in the fire. They cannot save themselves from the flame. You will get no help from them at all. Their heart is in no place to sit for warmth. All right. And ultimately, these sorceries aren't going to be able to help Esau Edom from the fate, you know, that the Lord has drawn out for him. He's done. He's through. And these are the beginning stages, and everyone can see it, man. You know? And I wanted to play this video from the Elder Yashawamba, you know, because this guy says the very same thing. But before I get that, I want to get this in ChatGPT, because I asked ChatGPT a question, and I typed in, what are the similarities in propaganda between World War II and the war happening with Iran right now? It says there are actually a lot of similarities between propaganda in World War II and propaganda in the current conflict involving Iran. Even though the technology and platforms have changed, the core psychological techniques are remarkably similar. Here are the main parallels. You know, Esau no longer has that psychological foothold. He no longer has that psychological power over the people. You know, which, let's get into it. Number one, it says demonizing the enemy. One of the most consistent propaganda techniques is portraying the opponent as evil, dangerous, or inhuman. And that's what, you know, these tiny tops in Babylon have been trying to paint. That's the picture that they've been trying to paint concerning these Iranians and Russians. You know, but ultimately the information is coming back that, you know, Babylon and these small hats are hypocrites. You know, they've been charged with war crimes, especially these tiny tops. They've been charged with war crimes, and the G word, the Geno word, man. They've been charged with these types of crimes against humanity, and it's been coming out about the different wickedness that they've been doing throughout the years as well. The same wickedness. But they've been picking out these other countries to be inhumane and demons, when the true demon was right here in your own backyard. It says in World War II, that's really not significant. It says, Iran war today, governments and media narratives often portray the opposing side as aggressive or irrational. Iranian messaging portrays the U.S. and Israel as imperial aggressors threatening Iran's sovereignty. Western narratives emphasize Iran as a destabilizing actor or nuclear threat. The goal in both cases is to justify the war and build public support, in which Esau doesn't have that public support. All right, you just seen a video a couple of days ago with a Marine that was advocating sternly against this war with Iran, even to the point where he broke his hand, as they were pulling him out of the courthouse. And you have a lot of these different military vets who are advocating against what Esau is doing right now against these different countries, waging war unjustly and unnecessarily. The kingdom is divided. Babylon is more divided than it's ever been. At one point in time, war brought the country together. But now we're seeing how war is driving these Babylonians apart. And it's all according to Bible prophecy, man. The Lord said it. The Lord said it. Let's get Isaiah 19, right? Because the Lord said he would set Egyptian against Egyptian. It's Isaiah chapter 19. Let's switch back to the KJV. In verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, which the modern day Egyptians are the Americans. We're in modern day Egypt. America is modern day Egypt. It says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. And we're in that time now where the counsel has been destroyed. The foothold that Hollywood had over the minds of the people no longer exists. The foothold that the educational system had over the people no longer exists. The foothold that so-called Christianity and these different religious philosophies Esau offered up no longer exist. These sorceries that Esau has offered that no longer exist, the sorcery that he put in the food, people are starting to wake up to. The same sorceries and enchantments that were once used to gain power and a foothold in the earth are no longer working. It's because the Lord is making Esau bare. And now we're in that time where Egyptian is being turned against Egyptian. The kingdom is divided more than it's ever been. Right hand Edomite, left hand Edomite, Magite, liberal Edomite. They're all being turned against each other. And when you have a kingdom like that, as the Lord said in the book of Luke, that kingdom cannot stand. It's only a matter of time till Babylon completely implodes upon itself, man. Excuse me. But number 2, ChatGPT, it says exaggerating victories, and downplaying losses. Now, we've been seeing a lot of that recently, where America, tiny tops have been exaggerating the victories, that they've been getting and downplaying their losses. And one of the brothers put this in the chat recently. Right, is Tiny Top, that land removes CCTV cameras and security move. All right, and like this comment says at the beginning, the world has seen enough. Taking down cameras ain't going to help. At this point, the information has been put out. All right, the knowledge has been increased. You have whole apps who are broadcasting live events taking place in our land, in the land of Israel, in Gaza and Palestine, in Iran. All right, these different countries where America has conflict. There's direct live news feed coming from these different countries showing the fact of the matter. And it's coming out so fast that Esau doesn't even have the time to come up with lies or propaganda to spin the narrative, because the information is coming out so quick. And that's why they're going to have to shut down this internet, because it's destroying the Babylonian enterprise, man. It's destroying them. At this point, and as you've seen in the video, them tiny tops getting their ass blown to smithereens too. They getting their ass fucked up too. So is them Ukrainians. They getting their ass blown to smithereens. Real cartoon shit. But they paint the picture as if, everything's sweet. But everybody can tell, that it's not. It says, number 3, controlling information, limiting access to information, and is another shared tactic, which we see that as well. Especially when brothers' videos, the amount of information that's cut, the amount of information that's taken down from brothers' videos, all due to Esau trying to control the narrative as best as possible. It says, number 4, appealing to the patriotism and unity, which, we're seeing the influx of that as well. It says, because there's more incentives to join Esau's military now than it was in times past, because Esau needs bodies. He knows he needs bodies for this next war. And in order to get, these people in America to sign up, he has to sweeten up those incentives. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's sweetening up the deal for a lot of these guys who are entering into the military. It says, using new media platforms, posters, films, radio broadcasts. The big takeaway, the techniques of propaganda, fear, patriotism, enemy demonization, and narrative control have changed very little since World War II. What's different today is the speed and scale, because digital media and AI allow propaganda to spread globally in minutes. All right. And that's ultimately the trick bag that the Lord has, going on with Esau Edom. All right. He doesn't have time to spin the narrative anymore. The truth is coming out at such a rapid pace, and at such a frequent pace, that there's really nothing he can do about it unless he shuts down the internet, and completely shows his hand, who he truly is, which he is going to do. But I want to play a little bit of this, and then we'll close it out.
Kucinich, right? Listen to what he says. Let's make sure we have all our cues, and let's get it.
And this is all part of a false interpretation of a biblical narrative from so many years ago about turning this area into, turning the Middle East into a slaughterhouse, and aiding and abetting the murder of hundreds of thousands of Gazans, and the extirpation from their land of people in the West Bank, burning their houses, killing their livestock. And this is all part of a false interpretation of a biblical narrative from so many years ago about the Amalek, and just kill everybody. Really? And there's a debate about whether it's a genocide. Wow.
It'd be like to hear my.
That's another form of propaganda that Esau has used in the past, is the Bible, which he's no longer able to spin, because the truth of the Bible has been put out by the Lord's prophets. Now he's trying to use the whole idea that Amalek, needs to be destroyed. God is for this whole enterprise, the Greater Israel Project, and all this bullshit. But people understand that that's false, because the prophets have been breaking down, the Bible for years now, starting with our elders, apostles, and their elders. Now really people are starting to ask questions about the legitimacy of these small hats and their claim to power. And this is all beautiful, man. This is all beautiful. We're in a very beautiful time to where now we are living. We are living, bro. We are living, Akim, in the times that we desire, we spoke of through the Spirit and power of Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. We're living in these times where the word of the Lord is being fulfilled. Call Allah Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, man. Lord willing, we continue to endure. All right? Because just as sure as the Lord proclaimed this judgment and this exposure of Esau Edom, he also proclaimed the salvation and the mercy that will be bestowed upon the elect, those who sincerely trust and believe, in his son and the resurrection of Yahweh Shai. But with that being said, that's all I had. Lord, when it's edifying unto you elect, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashum, Yahweh Shai, Bahashum Rakakudash, and double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Grace and peace to you elect around the four winds, believing and pushing its truth in all sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. Shalom.